Hi, I'm Nicola from Caketastic. Thank you for joining me here. I just want to start by saying a massive thank you to all of you that have subscribed to my new channel over the last couple of months. For all of you that have watched my videos, that have liked and have commented, please keep doing that. I love hearing from you. If you've got any ideas for the videos that you'd like to see as well, please pop a comment down, get in touch. I'd love to hear from you. Today, we're going to be making mince pies and doing something a little bit festive. I've even got my festive jumper on to celebrate and my bauble earrings. So we're going to be making mince pies 3 ways today. Not 1, not 2, but 3 ways. This is a really nice, simple video. I'm going to teach you how to use shop-bought ingredients. You don't need to worry that you can't make pastry or that when you do make pastry, it's really hard. We're not going to have any of those worries today. We're going to use shop-bought pastry and shop-bought mincemeat. And I'm going to teach you how to pimp them up a little bit to make them taste and look homemade and wonderful. So before we get started, the first thing we're going to do is preheat our oven. So over here, we're going to turn it to 180 degrees Celsius, which is gas mark 4. And we're going to leave that to preheat for about 10 to 15 minutes before our mince pies go in. For now, let's get cracking. I'm going to start with some shop-bought sweet pastry. So this has just got a slightly higher sugar content in. We're going to start by, oh, this is the noisy bit, opening the wrapper. This, if it's in the frozen section, just get this out and leave it overnight to defrost. Usually in the supermarket, this is in the chilled aisle, and you'll see it comes with some greaseproof paper. As you unroll your greaseproof paper, let's just turn that around a little bit, this one has already been pre-rolled out. If yours isn't pre-rolled, you just need to get a rolling pin and some additional flour. Just literally scatter the flour over your work surface and you just need to roll out your pastry. But I'm being extra lazy today because I've already been and bought this one. So we're using the shop bought stuff that's already rolled out. So because I'm already on my greaseproof paper, I don't need any flour, I don't need anything else. So we're going to get straight into it and start cutting out our pastry. I've got some pastry cutters here. So these typically come in packs like this and you can buy them at any sort of local supermarkets or online. I've got 2 different size cutters here today and I'm going to show you how I know which cutter out of all of these to use. So when you get your tin, mine's just a really simple supermarket bought baking tin. It's the shallow ones. You don't want the big thick ones, which are cupcake tins, because what will happen is the pastry goes so low in those, you need to put a lot of filling in, that more likely than not, the filling's going to come out in the oven and it will run all down the sides. That will make your mince pie really hard to get out of your cupcake tin because it'll all weld to the sides, which is no fun for anybody. So use the shallower tins. My mum used to call these fairy cake tins, or they're pie tins, they're known as pie tins. So the way I know how to get the right size is, I'm just going to pop the cutter over the top and it should just be ever so slightly bigger than the sort of shallow base. So I like to use the round side. If you want to be a little bit fancy, you could cut out using the fluted side, but we're going to use this size cutter to cut out our rounds. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to place it at the very edge of the pastry and I'm going to push it down. It can be quite hard here. And then just take it out. I'll do 3 to start with. And I'll do 1 more. I'm going to use a crank angled palette knife just to gently lift this up. The reason I'm going to use this little tool is, if I use my fingers and try and lift it up, all I'm going to do is dent those lovely sharp edges. So I'm just going to pop my pastry just on top. I'm not going to push it down. I'm just going to leave it hovering over the top. I'm going to pick the next one up and pop that on, and the next one up and just pop that one on. You'll note that I've not greased my tin, I've not used any oil, I've not used any butter. This is a non-stick tin. I'd always advise you to go for a non-stick tin. If you've got a really old tin that's been in the back of the cupboard because Granny gave it to you, you might need to put a little bit of oil in the base or a little bit of butter or baking margarine just to stop it sticking. But the way I'm doing these today, we won't have that issue. So once I've done that, I'd obviously go on and continue to fill the rest of the pan. This amount of pastry will give you 12 nice mince pies. If you stop using it like I am today, just roll that back up again and pop it back in the box. We'll come to those again later. So now I'm going to teach you how I pimp up my shop bought mincemeat. So this is just from my local supermarket. It smells all right at the moment. It's got a good amount of sort of like dried fruit in there. You've got your cherries in there, your mixed fruit, peel, sultanas, raisins, etc., currants. But it's just a bit lacking in flavour. So I want to give you a couple of ideas of how you can do what I call pimp up shop bought mincemeat. So the first one is you could add a little bit of chopped up apple. So if you cut it into really, small cubes and you can mix that through, that's really nice. You can also add a little bit of orange, a bit of that orange zest or orange rind. Just grate that in off your orange and give that a nice big mix. It'll give it a lovely smell when it's baking and when they come out of the oven. You could also add cranberries, again, really nice, really healthy. Pack as much fruit in as at this time of the year, particularly if your kids love mince pies, get that bit of extra fruit in them. But what I like to do is just add a little bit of brandy. Again, just shop bought brandy. Oh, that smells better. That plus that together smells amazing. So what I'm going to do is, I'd say probably for the size of this jar, I'd put about a teaspoon of brandy into there, and then get your spoon in and give it a really good mix round like that. Oh, it's smelling better already. But if you're like me, spoon, a little bit extra doesn't actually hurt, does it? It's for family and friends, isn't it? And it is Christmas, so make the most of it. So I'm going to give that a really good mix round. Always give it a little taste as well. You might realise that it needs something else. So I'm just going to give that a little taste. Oh yeah, that's good. But do you know what? I think we can add a little bit more brandy. So I've probably got about 3 teaspoons into the size of this jar now. So this is a 411 gram jar. Make sure you mix it all the way to the bottom so you don't miss any of it. We'll give it another little taste with a new spoon. That's better. That's much better. If you don't have brandy at home, I've tried it with rum before. Rum's a good one. Sherry is also really nice as well if you're a sherry fan. So we've popped that onto there. What I'm then going to do is grab another teaspoon, and what I'm going to do is just get a nice big spoonful. You only really want a teaspoon's worth, because what you don't want to do is you don't want, when it bakes, all of that lovely juices to run up and over the top. So I would put a teaspoon of each, of the mincemeat, in each pie circle. There we go. It's just experimentation though, isn't it? Make these once. If you think you can cope with a little bit more mincemeat, just pop a little bit more in. I'll move that out of the way now. And then what we're going to do is just lift these over, and it's at this point that you're just going to start to just push those little circles into your tin. And you see they're just going down in the middle a little bit there. And I'll do the same for the last one. And now I promised you that I was going to show you 3 different ways, didn't I, this morning? So the first one I'm going to show you is a traditional one, so a mince pie with a normal top. So we'll take our pastry back out again, and I'm going to use the size cutter that's just down from that one. You can see one fits just over the other like that. Again, if you're not sure, because you've got loads of different sizes, just pop it back over the top. As long as it fits just inside your pastry circle, you'll be absolutely fine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop it back onto my pastry, push it down, and then I'm going to get my palette knife and just lift that up. Now, before you place the pastry disc on top like so, you just need to put a little bit of milk onto your pastry circle. What this does is it just acts like a little, like glue basically. And you're just going to put it just on that top edge. Try not to get it on your baking tray, because if you get it on your baking tray, what happens is the oven has a nasty habit of welding it shut. And not only will you struggle to get your mince pie out of your tin, it'll all start to go all sticky. So I've just put a little bit just on my mince pie. I'm also going to get a really sharp knife, and I'm just going to put a couple of baking steam escape holes just in the top. Can you see those? Just see the light coming through there. What I'm then going to do is just pop that on top, and I'm just going to press down gently. All you're looking to do is just get the pastry lid to stick to the pastry base. There we go, just smooth it round so you've got no gaps. If you've got any gaps, that lovely mincemeat will just start to ooze out. So just press it down ever so slightly. I just wipe my finger across like that so I know that they're actually joining. So just take a second to do that because it stops all those nasty explosions. There we go. So that's our first type of mince pie done and dusted already. So we're now going to move on to a little bit more of a modern design. So you might have some of these cutters in your cupboards at home. So I've got 3 different styles of cutters here. You might have loads of others in your baking drawer at home. Any one is absolutely fine to use. So I've got a star shape here. What we do is just cut out in the pastry and we just pop it on top. But I think I'm going to go for the Christmas tree. I quite like this one. I did some like this last year and everybody said how lovely they looked. So again, back onto the pastry, I'm going to press the cutter down and I'm just going to lift it up. Sometimes if they get stuck in the cutters, just get your little finger in there and just push it through. And then I'm just going to place it on top of my mince pie like that. With this one, I'm going to put a little bit of the milk glaze just around the outside and on top of my little Christmas tree just there. So again, just be really careful that it doesn't go all over your tin. Take a few minutes to do this. I'm just using a little spatula. If you've got a little, you can get these little pastry brushes. They're quite good to use as well. But don't buy anything. Try and see if you've got something in the cupboards at home. What the milk does is it just gives it a nice golden brown colour. While I'm at it, I'm also going to just quickly pop some milk on the traditional mince pie that we made before. You might find that as you're doing that, your steam hole ever so slightly disappears, but don't worry about that. We'll just redo it with our knife. So that's 2 with pastry. So I'm going to roll that back up again. What I'm now going to do is show you something completely different, a little bit more modern and a little bit different. Bear with me a second. So for our third topping, our third mince pie, I've just got some butter out of the fridge and I've got here some caster sugar and some plain flour. And we're going to make a crumble topping. You know, like you do when you're making your apple pies or your rhubarb, not your apple pies, your apple crumble or your rhubarb crumble on a Sunday for dinner. We're going to do exactly the same thing for our mince pies. So there's enough here that will give crumble for 12. So you can always divide that to the number you require. I quite like making a variety of styles when I do mince pies, but you can do them all the same if you decide to. So I'll take my cling film off, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop the butter into the bowl along with the flour. So just tip all that in. Doesn't matter if you leave a little bit behind to start with because we'll add all that again in a second. It's really important that your butter or baking margarine's cold at this point. That is really cold on my fingertips. All I'm going to do is just put it into the bowl and I'm going to use the tips of my fingers and just do what's called rubbing in. Now rubbing in is just when you rub the butter and the flour with the tips of your fingers. Hopefully you can just see that there. I'll keep going. What this creates is it gives you your crumble consistency. Make sure you get plenty of air in it as well. Lift it up high in the bowl. You just rub in the fat into the flour. Turn it around a little bit so you can see. And it's just the butter that's coating the flour. But what it's going to do on your mince pies, it's going to give it a nice crunchy consistency. So whereas your pastry should be crisp, this will give that little bit of extra crunch. While I'm doing this, I'm going to tell you also how I pimp up my shop bought pastry. If you have an orange in your fridge or in your fruit bowl, just get a little grater and grate the zest, so the outside of that orange, and you can roll that into your pastry. So if you've got a big ball of pastry that you've made, or if you've got the shop bought, just roll it all up. Grate your orange onto your pastry and just roll it in as you roll it out. And it gives it that lovely zingy flavour. It's really nice. Again, nobody would know it's shop bought pastry if you're using my pimping up tricks, whether that's with the mincemeat or the pastry itself. So I'm just going to rub my hands together to get some of the butter and the flour just off my fingers. And then I'm just going to add the rest. So I've got the caster sugar and I've got a little bit more flour in there as well. And I'm just going to mix that round with my knife. I always use a knife because you're not bashing the grains about when you've started to create the crumble. If you've got any bigger bits, I've got a couple of larger bits of sugar there. Just get your hands in, just bring it together. I like it if it's not too uniform. Can you see? So I've got some bigger bits, I've got some smaller bits of crumble. I like that sort of non-uniformity. It just gives, you know, a really nice crunch. So then all I'm going to do is I'm going to get my fingers in the bowl and I'm just going to just sprinkle it on top of my mince pie. Nice and high, don't be stingy. We want to make sure everyone's well fed with these. The trouble is, once you've made these, you'll be asked to be making them time and time again. I'll go back to my milk. I'm just going to damp the sides of the pastry again. Try not to get it all over your tin. Bits of your crumble will start falling out. Just shove those back on again. We'll go all the way round. A little bit more. You don't need to put any milk onto your crumble. There's enough butter and sugar in there that will make that go nice and golden brown itself. So that's your mince pies 3 ways. What we're now going to do is get those straight into our oven. So I'm going to take these on my baking tray and pop them straight into the oven. And we're going to bake these for about 15 minutes. Obviously baking temperatures do vary depending upon the type of oven you have. So set the timer for 15 minutes and then just have a look back once the timer goes off. So that buzzer now is my lovely mince pies. If you've not watched my mince pie video, go to that one now. Mince pies 3 ways, they're really yummy. Okay, oh look at these. These look beautiful. I love that, like, bubbling. Okay, I'll just turn my oven off. I'm going to pop these on the cooling rack to cool, and then I'm going to get on with our cupcake. Okay, so these have just come out of the oven a few minutes ago. I've popped them onto a cooling rack and these have cooled down nicely. You know, because I'm touching the baking tray. You know, I said earlier you don't need to grease your tins because I'm using a non-stick tin. I bet you didn't believe me, did you, when you said that they wouldn't come out? How about that for coming out of a tin? How do you know when they're baked? They get that nice golden brown colour. But if you turn them over, you can also see that they're nice and brown on the bottom. If you tap them, they also give you like a hollow sound, so you know that that pastry's really cooked. It's like Mary Berry says, bless her, you don't want a soggy bottom. That's a lovely crisp bottom. That's not a soggy bottom. So that one's great. I also mentioned previously, if you put a little bit too much mincemeat in, it just bubbles over the side. You can see that's happened just here. So if that happens to you, just get a little palette knife or a little knife of some description. And if you just pop that in next to that mince pie to just help lift it up. Again, if you use your fingers, you might just knock it about a little bit. But how lovely and homemade does that look? Mary Berry would be really proud of us because there's no soggy bottom either. Lovely and crisp. Pop that one on the cooling tray. Then we'll go to our last one, which is our crumble topped one. Again, look how beautiful that looks. It's just lovely and homemade. Again, I can feel that there's no soggy bottom on the base of that, and I'm going to pop that down to cool. Just leave those for a little bit longer. They are still a little bit warm to touch. Come back to me in a couple of minutes and we'll just finish them off nicely. Okay, so our mince pies are now cool enough that we can touch. As long as you can touch them with your hands comfortably, they're ready for this last finishing touch. So I've got a little, a tiny little sieve here, or a tea strainer, whatever you've got at home. And I'm just going to put the tiniest bit of icing sugar just into my little strainer. And I'm just going to give it a couple of taps. It's almost like snow on top of your mince pies. But it just gives it a lovely finish. I mean, they could be shop bought, couldn't they? They could be made in an artisan bakery. They look fantastic. So then all you've got to do is just present them really prettily and offer them around. Happy Christmas, everyone. And how pretty and professional do they look? So in real terms, you've been to your supermarket and you've probably paid about sort of £1.60 for your pastry and about £1 for your mincemeat. You know, that's very little money when you can make lots and lots of these. So we've only made 3 today, but the pastry itself could probably make at least 12, maybe even 15. So it's value for money. Don't pay £3.50 for shop bought mince pies. Make your own. It's loads of fun as well.